Thank you, Madam Chair. I am David Kopel, as you may remember earlier today, adjunct professor of constitutional law at Denver University, research director at the Independence Institute. As always, the scholars at Denver University or the Independence Institute would testify and speak for themselves. I am also a NRA certified firearms instructor. I too was around in 2003, and indeed the decade before that led up to the passage of the bill. And as an attorney, I would say my memory of legislative history and legislative intent doesn't count for nearly as much as that of legislators themselves. Personally, my recollection is closer to Senator Toptrop's than Senator Lundberg's, but the fact that there's a disagreement there perhaps shows that the intent did not fully control with precision on this particular issue. But I would say that what Senator Toptrop's bill seems to have been prompted by is the article in the Denver Post about some guy who was offering a 1-hour online-only class. And it is my feeling that the 2003 legislature, when that was being considered, didn't look at something like that as sufficient training for what they wanted to do. And I understand there are arguments in some states, like Arizona, have repealed the training requirements entirely, and there are legitimate arguments on that position. But with the law we have, I think a 1-hour online-only class doesn't really fulfill the intent. Some of the opponents of the bill have made some, I think, valid points that there might be useful to have an amendment that talks about the physical location of where it does. So what if a guy, instead of the typical situation where he has a classroom that people come to, instead he goes to people's house and provides one-on-one training, which in some ways is even better to have that personalized instruction. The bill can be amended to provide for that. And I think likewise, hunter safety education in our state sets a good model. That is something where you can do the entire, it's a lengthy class, series of classes. You can do the entire thing classroom only, but the Division of Wildlife also says you can do the much of the instruction online through, when they have a partnership with the International Hunter Education Association, which is also based in Colorado. And that's how I did it, where you do lots of instruction online at your own pace, where you can absorb the material in the best way for you. But there has to be a finale class. And so for my hunter education class, the finale class was at, I believe at a Bass Pro Shops, or Sportsman Warehouse, one of those superstores. And we had an all morning, and into the afternoon in-person class where they showed us all the equivalent of the driver safety videos with the horrible accidents caused by carelessness and all that. So I think that would be an appropriate amendment to say that the bill, you can't have the entire instruction online, and an easy way to do that is just in line 16, you replace a course that allows a person to complete any portion of the course, just strike any portion of and replace it with the entire. And then we get into the hunter safety model. And that is all of my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I talked to Mr. Kopel earlier today, and I did say we would look at some legislation. And I do understand there is, because hunter safety, and I can show you a hunter safety book that I have in my office. And a lot of this stuff came online. In fact, sometimes instructors, when they have the class in the classroom, they use video, so it would be the same thing, comparable to online. And but as long as 1 hour is not even sufficient, you're not even getting comfortable in your chair. But when you have the model, and as far as taking a class, the instructor, I don't feel that the bill specifies that it has to be in particular any location other than the physical location when it's certified. Well, we can change that if the instructor wants to in the statute, if the instructor wants to travel. But it would be a physical prohibition if the instructor is there, so.
So
I'm willing to I will offer a second reading.
on the second reading, there's possibly
Yes,
amendment or amendments coming.
there will be, and I will offer them. And I already talked to Mr. Kopel. Today was just a little much to try to go into amendments, but, you know,
Okay.
I will concern
Senator
the balance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Kopel, you addressed some of my concerns in your testimony. I've been involved in higher education for many, many years as a trustee of a school and some instruction, and I've watched with great interest as the online capacity for delivering education has blossomed. And the bill in its current form, to me, is a very regressive, backward one. And I've seen some college professors who would simply react to it from a self-interest perspective of, I want those students in my class, and I won't lose them to some online instruction. And I hate to see us going backward with our instruction with concealed carry. And I would say to the sponsor, if we really can make this an open-ended, that I will agree that under current Colorado concealed carry law, where instruction is required, it's insufficient, in my mind too, a 1-hour online course. That does sound like a little bit of a diploma mill system, but it's way overboard to go down the road to simply say, well, it's got to be, somebody can do that in person too. They could show up and give the same instruction in an hour's time, which I still think would be quite insufficient for all areas that are required to be covered with concealed carry instruction. So, as I say, if you can come up with a good idea in second reading, I'll support it, but until then, I won't. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with Senator Lundberg that the last thing I want to see us do as a state is to eliminate what the United States is really good at, which is technology and innovation. I think of the FATS machine that law enforcement is trained on, without even a handgun being an active, working handgun, even being present in the room, and computer-generated situations and so forth. And I think the other, and this is the question I'm addressing to you, Professor, is the other concern I have is that whether we've talked to the people that are actually put their name on that application, which is the sheriffs of Colorado, and what they're comfortable with or not comfortable with, because they're the ones that have the liability of handing out that concealed carry permit. And do you know of where the sheriffs are at on this?
Mr. Kopel?
I do not, Senator, but I think your point is you're moving in the right direction on that, because this is one thing that I think all three of us who were there at the time do remember, is this was very much the sheriff's bill. This was the county sheriff's of Colorado bill, and it was written the way they wanted it, including the naked man provision, and other groups had their support of it and made modifications, but it's the county sheriff's bill, so it would be what, I think what they feel comfortable with is, provides us good guidance here. And you're exactly right about we want to fix the language here that said that would forbid any electronic device, because what you're talking about is for the senators who are not as familiar with firearms training, is you can do very advanced firearms training, go actually far beyond what the law requires for a concealed carry permit, in training police officers or anyone else in don't shoot scenarios. And And that's done with an electronic simulator, and I would imagine, even though the standard way is all the electronics are contained in one room, you could probably make it even better with internet connections. So we want to make sure to encourage the use of that, but at the same time to make sure there's this, at some point in the course, the final check-in with the live person-to-person contact.